Heartbreak, Homestations, what to expect on Thursday's dramatic episode of Days of Our Lives. Thursday, June 5th, will bring a wave of emotion and revelations to the long-running soap opera Days of Our Lives. The episode promises to be a whirlwind of reunions, grief, romance, and simmering tension as familiar faces return, love triangles heat up, and the Salem community continues to mourn a devastating loss. A bittersweet homecoming. Jack and Jennifer return to Salem. The episode kicks off with the long-anticipated return of Jack Devereaux and Jennifer Horton Devereaux. Longtime fans will remember these two as one of the most enduring couples in Salem history, their love surviving amnesia, separations, political careers, and even death itself more than once. Jack and Jennifer are returning home to a Salem that is both familiar and foreign. They are coming back not just to reconnect with loved ones, but also to pay their respects and support their community in the wake of John Black's tragic passing. But this homecoming won't be all warm embraces and quiet dinners. Jennifer, in particular, will find herself rocked by some troubling news, and the rage she feels before the weekends could tear open old wounds and spark new conflicts. Romance and secrets, Chad DiMera starts dating again. With a twist, meanwhile, Chad DiMera, still grieving the loss of his beloved wife Abigail, has begun to dip his toes back into the dating world. This week, he's spending time with Kat Green, who many in town know as Marlena Evans' loyal assistant. Kat is no stranger to loss herself, and the two share a tender connection. Their dinner date has the potential to blossom into something real. But as we know in Salem, no relationship forms without its share of complications. There's an eerie twist hovering over this budding romance. One that could devastate everyone involved. Rumors are swirling that Abigail might not be as gone as everyone believed. Could Kat, perhaps unknowingly, be involved in something much bigger and more dangerous than a simple rebound relationship? A visit to Marlena. Comfort and compassion in the wake of loss. Before her date with Chad, Kat stops by Dr. Marlena Evans' home. Marlena, known for her calm strength and wise counsel, is struggling under the weight of John's death. As her assistant and friend, Kat wants to offer comfort. But sometimes grief needs silence, not conversation. Marlena may not be ready to receive visitors just yet. Instead, Kat finds herself having a deep, reflective conversation with Tate Black. Their talk reveals a different side of both characters. Tate is trying to stay strong, but the cracks are beginning to show. With Kat's calm presence, he may find some of the reassurance he needs to begin healing. And that healing may also come in the form of someone very special to him. Young love rekindled. Holly and Tate reunite in tragedy. Love can be complicated, especially for the younger generation in Salem. But tragedy has a way of reminding people what really matters. Holly Jonas and Tate Black, whose relationship had seen its ups and downs, find themselves reunited in mourning. When Holly learns about John Black's death, she rushes to Tate's side. There's something deeply moving about the way she comforts him, a long embrace, gentle words, and the promise that he's not alone. These are the kind of moments that remind us why we tune in, the genuine human connections amidst all the turmoil. Holly and Tate may be young, but their bond is strong. This reunion could mark a fresh start for them, one that honors the past while building towards something more hopeful. Doug Williams III, caught between two worlds, confession and consequences. Elsewhere in Salem, Doug Williams III, played by Peyton Meyer, finds himself grappling with a classic soap opera dilemma, following his heart or doing what's right. Doug confides in the ever-curious Leo Stark, opening up about his tangled emotions. He still has deep feelings for Holly, but in a moment of weakness and confusion, he slept with Ariana Ari Horton. This kind of romantic entanglement is bound to stir up major drama, especially when the truth comes out. And rest assured, in Salem, the truth always comes out. Will Doug choose to fight for Holly? Or will his actions push her further away and bring Ari even deeper into his world? Mother-daughter fireworks. Ari and Gabi's explosive showdown, one of the most emotionally charged moments in Thursday's episode, will come when Ari Horton and her mother Gabi Hernandez clash in a fierce confrontation. Ari's been acting out, rebellious, impulsive, and fiercely independent. Gabi, while trying to understand her daughter, can only take so much. Their latest fight may be their biggest yet, filled with accusations, hurtful words, and emotional outbursts. But there's a glimmer of hope. John Black's death is a shock to them both, And sometimes grief has a way of mending even the most frayed relationships. For at least a moment, Gabby and Ari may find common ground, enough to stand together in mourning, if nothing else. With Will Horton back in town, Ari will have the love and support she needs to face whatever's coming next. And perhaps, just perhaps, Doug may be there for her too, if he can get his own feelings sorted out. Storms brewing. Jennifer's wrath and the Abigail mystery. As the episode nears its conclusion, one final revelation looms large. Jennifer Devereaux may soon learn the shocking truth that the woman her son Chad is dating, Kat, may have ties to the person impersonating her late daughter Abigail DiMera. This potential betrayal cuts deep. Jennifer has lost so much and fought so hard to preserve her family's legacy. The idea that someone could be using Abigail's identity, or that Chad could be deceived yet again, is almost too much for her to bear. Before the week is out, Jennifer will explode with rage, and Kat may find herself in the middle of a storm she never saw coming. Final thoughts. The calm before the storm. Thursday's episode of Days of Our Lives promises all the classic elements that have made the show a favorite for over half a century. Love, loss, mystery, and the enduring power of family. Next, a family reunited. Beau's emotional awakening. The soft glow of morning light filtered through the curtains of the Brady family living room, casting a warm, golden hue over the familiar space. For years, this room had been a silent witness to laughter, tears, and the quiet moments that knit a family together. But today, it was the stage for a miracle, a reunion that had seemed impossible just days ago. Beau Brady, the man who had been locked in a coma for years, was awake. His return to consciousness was nothing short of a gift, a second chance at life that none of his loved ones dared to hope for. As his wife, Hope, guided him gently to the couch, her touch was both tender and steady, anchoring him in a world that had moved on without him. Beau moved with surprising ease for someone who had been bedridden for so long. His steps were cautious but determined, as if his body remembered the rhythm of life even if his mind was still catching up. Hope's eyes, brimming with love and relief, never left his face. She settled him onto the couch, her hands lingering on his shoulders as if afraid he might vanish again. "Beau," she said softly, her voice a melody of devotion. "I've been right here, by your side, every single day." Her words were a lifeline, pulling him back to the present, to her, to their shared history. But as Beau's gaze met hers, a shadow crossed his face. Memories, dark, jagged, and unrelenting, flooded back. Under Megan's sinister influence, he had hurt the people he loved most. The weight of those actions pressed against his chest, stealing his breath. "Hope, I did terrible things," he whispered, his voice breaking. Guilt clawed at him, threatening to pull him under. But Hope, ever his anchor, leaned in closer. She cupped his face in her hands and kissed him, once, twice, a third time, each kiss a promise, a forgiveness, a vow. "This is the first day of the rest of our lives," she said fiercely, her lips brushing against his. "We start fresh, Beau, together." The moment was interrupted by the sound of the front door swinging open. Sierra, their daughter, stood frozen in the doorway, her eyes wide with disbelief and joy. "Mom? Dad?" she breathed, her voice trembling. Then, with a laugh that was half-sob, she rushed forward. "You two kissing like that, it's a sight for sore eyes." She dropped to her knees beside the couch, her hands reaching for her father's. Beau's face lit up, his heart swelling at the sight of his little girl, now a grown woman with a life of her own. Sierra wasted no time filling Beau in on the years he'd missed. "Dad, you're a grandpa," she said, her smile radiant. "I've got 2 kids, and Ben and I, we're sailing the world just like you and Mom did." Her words painted a vivid picture of adventure and love, a life that echoed the one Beau and Hope had built together. Beau chuckled, his eyes twinkling with pride. "Sailing, huh? Sounds like you're doing it right. But this Ben guy, I need to meet him, make sure he's good enough for my girl." His teasing tone couldn't hide the fierce protectiveness in his voice, and Sierra laughed, promising a proper introduction soon. The reunion grew as Sean Douglas, Beau's son, stepped into the room. The air shifted, charged with a different kind of emotion. Sean's face was a mix of relief and torment, his eyes searching his father's for answers. "Dad," he said, his voice raw, "I need to know what you remember about what happened." The words hung heavy, a reference to the moment that had haunted Sean for years. The day he'd shot his own father to save Hope. The memory was a wound that had never healed, a burden he carried every day. Beau's expression softened, his heart aching for his son. "Sean, I remember everything," he said quietly. "You did what you had to do. You protected your mom. That was Megan's doing, not yours." His voice was steady, absolving Sean of the guilt that had consumed him. "I'm so proud of you, son." With those words, Beau pulled Sean into a fierce embrace, holding him tightly as if he could shield him from the pain of the past. Hope watched, tears streaming down her face, as father and son found solace in each other's arms. As the day unfolded, Beau was swept up in a whirlwind of catching up. Each revelation about his family was a thread weaving him back into the tapestry of their lives. He learned that his daughter Chelsea was a mother, making him a grandfather 4 times over. "For grandkids," he exclaimed, his grin wide. "Bring them here. Grandpa needs some hugs." The thought of those little ones filled him with a joy he hadn't felt in years, a reminder of the legacy he and Hope had created. But not all the news was joyful. Beau was stunned to hear that Belle and Sean were divorced, their once strong bond unraveled by time and circumstance. He learned that Claire, his granddaughter, was in Africa with Theo, pursuing a life of purpose far from home. The news of his sister Kimberly's cancer returning hit him like a punch, and the revelation that Xander, of all people, was his half-brother left him reeling. "Xander? My brother?" he said, half laughing, half disbelieving. When he heard that Gardner had been named CEO, he couldn't resist a quip. "Gardner as CEO. Now that's a bold move." His humor was a flicker of the old Beau, the man who could find light even in the darkest moments. But the light dimmed when Hope gently broke the news of Victor's death. Beau's breath caught, his hand tightening around Hope's. "Victor, gone?" he whispered, his voice barely audible. Victor Kyriakis, the larger-than-life patriarch, had always seemed invincible, a force of nature who could bend the world to his will. The reality of his absence was a blow Beau wasn't prepared for. "He was so strong," Beau said, his voice cracking. "He couldn't just leave." Tears welled in his eyes as he grappled with the loss, regretting the words he'd never said, the love he'd never fully expressed. And then, as if the universe hadn't tested him enough, Hope delivered another devastating blow. Her father, Doug, was also gone. Beau's heart shattered anew. He pulled Hope into his arms, holding her as tightly as he could, as if he could shield her from the pain. "I'm so sorry, fancy face," he murmured, using the nickname that had always been theirs. "I should have been here." Hope nestled against him, her voice steady despite her tears. "You're here now, Beau. And in my heart, you've always been there." The room grew quiet, the weight of loss mingling with the miracle of reunion. Beau looked around at his family, Hope, Sierra, Sean, and felt a surge of gratitude. He had missed so much, but he was here now, surrounded by love, given a chance to make things right. The road ahead would be long, filled with challenges and healing, but for the first time in years, Beau felt alive. This was his family, his home, his second chance, and he would hold onto it with everything he had.